about the cultural mandate. Lay out what it is and what it means for each one of us.
Sure. When God creates humans, he talks about his purpose for humans in Genesis 1:26. He says that humans are going to rule over the world. They're going to have dominion. He makes them, verse 27, verse 28, he says, after it's saying, populate the world, he then says, I'm giving you the world to manage. That's why some people call it, it's not original to me to call it the first Great Commission, but that's why that I use that language. And so that first Great Commission is the managing of all of this. And that managing of all of this would include what we call political life. Because at some point, when you get more people and those people are trying to manage their life beyond their family unit, how are they deciding what that's going to be? If they decide to build roads, okay, who decides whether they're roads for everybody?
Mhm.
If you're going to have some kind of commercial enterprise between each other, who decides what the rules for those things are? Who does all that? Right? It's not just only about whether there are conflicts and how you bring justice to conflicts. It's also about how you're setting up, if you will, the rules of the game for a common life together. That would happen even if there were no falls, my point. But we are on the other side of the fall, so now that management of common life includes the need for justice that is, you know, involves the sword, that involves having things in place so that society doesn't go off the rails.
Mm.
So the cultural mandate it's called creation mandate or cultural mandate because when God makes the creation and he gives humans this responsibility for working in it, they are producing something. They are, to use Andy Crouch's language, they're making something of the world,
Mm.
right? So they're creating, they're cultivating, and they're producing things. And so it's a mandate given to humans. It's a blessing. It's kind of a command and blessing, one could argue. And I think here's an important thing about it. Even if somebody says yes, page 1, but I feel like page 3 vetoes that, I would then point them to Psalm 8, where Psalm 8 is not pining for the fact that we lost having this responsibility as humans to rule over God's creation. Psalm 8 is enamored and blown away by the fact that God's made it possible for humans to be the ones who have this responsibility for God's work. That's why God's, in that case, God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Look at what you've done, including us. You thought enough of the humans made in your image that you gave them the responsibility to manage your world. Now, of course, because it's God's world, they're responsible to him for what they do in his world. But it's the fact that they even have the opportunity to do it. It's like, God, wow, it's amazing that you did that. Not, it's amazing that that was your intent. I'm so upset that it's gone. You can't find that in Psalm 8. And so Psalm 8 at least suggests, if I'm going to put it on a soft version, at least suggests that humans still have this responsibility. What fallenness does is make it complicated because now after fallenness, people don't always have good intent. They don't always see right. They become more selfish. They become more fearful, more suspicious of others, etc. And in the midst of those types of things, they're still making our way forward with some kind of socio-political reality together.
Why do you think so many Christians have lost sight of the cultural mandate?
Some because they never hear about it.
Mm.
Others, I think, because it's at the beginning of the book, and honestly, here's the way I put it. I think if the way I learned about salvation is that it is a rescue from creation rather than a reclaiming and transforming of creation, then there's always this dissonance between the created order and redemption. If redemption is about getting us out of here, hey, I'm waiting for my ride to come, as some people might say, then it winds up being that salvation takes us away from all of this. When people say this world is not my home, just passing through, it's right and it's wrong. Okay. It's right in the sense that if you mean the world in terms of the world system that is created by people that are disregarding God when they do that, in the world in that sense, then yes, you're right. If you mean the created order, it's like, well, no, yeah, it is. And actually, by virtue of being a human being, you're actually part of the world yourself. So it is definitely your home. But it's not your home that you are to worship. Is where God's placed you as part of His creation. And I think one of the problems that sometimes happens is, strangely, people worship an incarnate Jesus, but it's like they become more Gnostic, right? Forgetting that the incarnate Jesus, by identifying with humans, is identifying with the crown of creation, which means He cannot be bringing a redemption that takes you away from the creation. Why do you need a resurrected Jesus, an incarnate Jesus, if it's just about knowing the right facts and then having a reconciliation with God, and then you escape into a kind of disembodied existence for eternity? I mean, that's you don't need the incarnation for that, right? And so I think that there's a way of talking about the gospel where, oh, of course, Jesus is human. It's important He identified with us so that the sin problem can be addressed. Now the sin problem is addressed, then we have this transaction that's taking place. My eternal destiny is secured in many traditions, at least, and then my life is to be a certain kind of moral person who does what they can and tries to share the good news with others, while I wait for God to come and in some cases set everything right, in other cases to blow this up and make a new one.